The movie opens on October 30th, 1977, where we see a tourist attraction called Captain Spaulding's Museum of Monsters and Madmen, which is also a gas station and a fried chicken joint. Inside the store, the owner, Spaulding, is dressed as a clown and talking with a friend. The friend soon takes the bathroom keys and goes to relieve himself, right when two masked robbers enter the store. They point their guns at Spaulding and aggressively begin demanding money. But the clown doesn't seem the least bit afraid, and he instead begins mocking and insulting the robbers. Next, one of the robbers drags the man out of the bathroom, but to his surprise, the man recognizes him and begins mocking him. Annoyed, both robbers remove their masks, only for Spaulding to burst out laughing at their faces. Suddenly, a masked figure appears and knocks down one of the thieves, while Spaulding shoots the other one fatally. When Spaulding notices one of them still clinging to life, he finishes him off as well. Hours later, we meet two men named Jerry and Bill, who are traveling through the same area. They notice they're running low on gas, but fortunately, they soon arrive at Captain Spaulding's gas station. Jerry then wakes up his girlfriend, Denise, and Bill's girlfriend, Mary, so that they can check out the place as well. Later, as the guys excitedly look around the horror museum, Bill approaches Spaulding, and reveals that he and his friend are driving cross-country, intending to write a book on offbeat roadside attractions. Seconds later, the girls enter, and Jerry excitedly tells them that he has already bought tickets for a tour called the Murder Ride, and urges them to join. The girls aren't interested and refuse at first, but Jerry eventually persuades them to go anyway. Soon enough, Captain Spaulding starts the Murder Ride, and narrates the stories of various serial killers, while using lifelike mannequins to reenact their gruesome acts. The most important story is about their local hero, S. Quentin Quayle, also known as Dr. Satan. He was a murderer, torturer, and surgeon who believed he could create a superhuman by experimenting on mental patients. The locals eventually discovered his deeds, and decided to hang him from a tree not far from here. But he mysteriously disappeared the day after, and to this day, he has never been found. After the tour finally ends, Jerry is excited by how terrifying it was, but the others are clearly uncomfortable. Denise then calls her dad, Donald, to tell him they stopped for gas at Captain Spaulding's station and will be a little late. Just then, a news report comes on the television about 5 cheerleaders, who mysteriously disappeared in the area, and no leads have been found. Meanwhile, Jerry asks for the location of the tree where Dr. Satan was hanged, to which Spaulding says it's just a waste of time. But when Jerry keeps urging, he finally draws a map for Jerry, and hands him a complimentary fried chicken. The group then drives off, but everyone is irritated that Jerry wants to go look for the tree instead of heading straight home. Soon, they notice a woman standing alone on the road, asking for a ride, and the guys decide to give her a lift, even though the girls refuse. It turns out her name is Baby, and she's a local from the area. Jerry then asks her about Dr. Satan's tree, and she responds that it's right near her home, and even offers to take them there. But not long after, a mysterious figure lurking in the bushes fires at the tires, forcing their car to swerve violently. Bill asks Jerry to grab the spare, but the latter says he forgot to put it in the car, leaving everyone stranded. Panic sets in, but Baby says they can walk to her house, as her brother has a tow truck to retrieve the car. Bill thus decides to go with her, while the rest of the group stays in the car. The scene then cuts to a house, where we see that a man named Otis has tied up the missing cheerleaders, and is humiliating them. Elsewhere, Baby brings Bill to her house, and he shivers as he sees creepy dolls staring at him from the entrance. Baby then returns, saying her brother has already left to get the others, and invites him inside. Meanwhile, the rest of the group is waiting in the car when Mary hears strange noises. Before they can figure out what it is, a man suddenly appears in front of their car, startling them. They soon realize that it's the tow truck guy, but we realize that he is the same man who shot at their tires. Back in the house, Bill asks Baby if she lives here alone with her brother, but she casually says there are a bunch of them. It turns out Otis is upstairs, torturing the girls, and he is none other than her brother. Here, Baby begins flirting with Bill, but he gets uncomfortable and struggles to pull away. Fortunately, the rest of the group arrives just in time. Afterward, Denise asks Baby if she has a phone, as she wants to call her dad again, right when Baby's mom, Mother Firefly, arrives and tells them they haven't had a phone in years. She flirts with Jerry, who asks if the guy with the tow truck can drive them to a phone. Mother Firefly reveals his name is RJ, and sends Baby to check if he has finished repairing the car. Shortly after, Baby returns, and says RJ went to get a tire, and that he won't be back for several hours. This frustrates the group, but Mother Firefly urges them not to worry, explaining that today is Halloween Eve, which is a very special day for them. She invites them to dinner, and the evening quickly takes a bizarre turn as the family forces the guests to wear Halloween masks to celebrate. Suddenly, an extremely tall man named Tiny appears, wearing a bizarre mask, and he silently sits at the table. Mother Firefly then writes a note instructing him to fetch Grandpa. Afterward, Mother Firefly tells the guests that her late husband, Earl, once suddenly tried to burn the house down, claiming he was possessed by spirits. Tiny had been sleeping in the basement during the fire, and most of his skin was horribly burned, leaving him scarred and nearly deaf. The gruesome tale chills the guests to the bone, but they try to play it cool. Shortly after, the group is joined by Grandpa Hugo, and they begin the meal. Jerry then asks Mother Firefly about Dr. Satan, but before she can answer, Otis suddenly appears and reveals that he knows all about him. Jerry recounts how Captain Spaulding told them the legend of Dr. Satan, but Otis claims the old man doesn't know anything. Moments later, Grandpa Hugo excitedly declares that dinner is over, and it's now showtime. Everyone sits in the audience as Hugo steps onto the stage, and begins telling wildly inappropriate and disgusting jokes. The guests grow increasingly uncomfortable, but Jerry seems completely thrilled by the spectacle. Afterward, Baby goes up on stage and performs a seductive dance, which captivates both Bill and Jerry. She then comes down, and begins flirting with Bill, so an enraged Mary shoves her and screams at her to stay away from her boyfriend, even calling her a whore. A furious Baby tries to attack her with a knife, but her mother calms her down, just as RJ arrives and announces that their car is ready. The guests thus scramble out of the house, and jump into the car, but Baby appears and scares them, prompting them to speed off. Unfortunately, the main gate is locked, leaving Bill with no choice but to step outside to open it. But then, upon seeing this, Jerry jumps out to help Bill, but another scarecrow lunges at him, and brutally beats him up. The terrified girls realize that the scarecrows are actually Otis and Tiny, and they frantically lock the door. But Tiny smashes a window, and yanks Denise to drag her back into the house. Otis also begins to smash through the window, prompting poor Mary to scream in pure terror. The next day, on Halloween, RJ is seen disposing of the group's car, while Donald calls the sheriff to report that his daughter has gone missing. He reveals she was last at Captain Spaulding's gas station, and was supposed to be home by 11 p.m., but never arrived. The sheriff promises to investigate, though he suggests that the heavy rain the night before may have caused trouble on the road. Elsewhere, Mary wakes up bound and gagged in a chair, and the terrified girl begins to scream in desperation. Otis soon enters the room and orders her to stop making noises because he's working. He says he will remove her gag, but warns her not to make loud sounds. She asks where Bill is, but Otis simply claims he was a perfect specimen to work with. We then see flashbacks of Otis and Baby torturing Bill, even cutting off his limbs while the poor guy was helplessly tied up. Meanwhile, a desperate Mary pleads to see her boyfriend, and she witnesses a horrifying sight of dead Bill, whose upper limbs have been replaced with the arms of corpses, and the lower limbs with the fin of a large fish. Mary refuses to believe this could be real, but Otis insists it is and begins forcibly kissing her. Later, two police officers, Weidel and Neisch, arrive at Spaulding's gas station, while investigating Denise's disappearance. They show Spaulding a photo of Denise, and he admits that she and her friends were there last night. He explains that he gave them a map to an old farm where Dr. Satan was hanged, and maybe they just got lost on the way. Weidel then orders him to draw the exact map to the tree so they can investigate, to which Spaulding complies. On the other hand, Denise wakes up in a room and finds herself tied to a bed, while her face is smeared with bizarre makeup. Tiny enters the room carrying cereal for her, but the terrified girl refuses the food, so Tiny begins eating it himself, while Denise pleads for him to let her go. Surprisingly, Tiny frees her from her restraints, and allows her to go, which relieves the girl. But she doesn't get far before Otis catches her, and locks her in a cage along with the cheerleaders. At the same time, the police are on their way to find the tree, but come across the destroyed and abandoned car of Denise's group. Elsewhere, Jerry also wakes up tied to a chair, and Baby arrives to check on him. He asks where his friends are, but she insists on playing a twisted guessing game. She asks him stupid questions, and when he fails to answer, she begins cutting his damn scalp. On the other hand, the police inspect the abandoned car, and find the keys, which they use to open the trunk. But they recoil in horror when they discover the body of one of the cheerleaders inside, carved with the words "treat or trick." Shortly after, Donald arrives to join the police investigation, and the three of them decide to visit nearby farms to investigate. They soon arrive at the Firefly residence, where the other two look around the back for any clues, while Weidel goes to the front door. Noticing this, Mother Firefly quickly tells Otis that cops are outside. He calmly hands her a gun and tells her to go outside while he checks around the back. At the front door, Mother Firefly greets Weidel, who shows her Denise's picture, explaining that he is searching for the missing girl. Meanwhile, Naish and Donald are scanning the area, when faint noises from a nearby shed startle them. At the same time, Mother Firefly insists she hasn't seen the girl, but Weidel wants to come in since there are other pictures to see as well. Elsewhere, Naish and Donald finally break open the shed and are met with a nightmarish sight. A brutally tortured Mary is still alive and hanging from the ceiling, surrounded by the dead and mutilated bodies of the cheerleaders. Naish tries to inform his partner via radio, but Mother Firefly raises her gun and shoots Weidel dead. A stunned Donald tries to flee as memories of his daughter flood his mind, but Otis unalives him before he can get far. Up next, a terrified Naish immediately surrenders. But that night, the Twisted family prepares a horrific ritual, hanging Jerry, Mary, and Denise while they wear rabbit costumes. Moments later, Otis enters the room wearing Donald's skin, and approaches Denise, causing her to scream in horror. Otis tells the three of them that they deserve punishment for meddling where they shouldn't. He then grabs Jerry, and warns him that if he wants to meet Dr. Satan so badly, he will make it happen, because Dr. Satan is real. Next, the family takes them to a grave in the middle of nowhere, and Otis tries to force Jerry into a coffin. Mother Firefly kisses him goodbye, while Jerry pleads for their freedom, promising he won't tell anyone. But they chuck him inside the coffin anyway, during which Mary manages to break free and run, so Baby convinces Otis to let her handle it. Mary runs at full speed, until she reaches a cemetery filled with the memorials of the family's victims. The terrified girl now begins hearing Baby's voice echoing all around her, and while she's distracted, Baby suddenly jumps on her, and brutally stabs her multiple times until she dies. Elsewhere, Denise and Jerry are placed in a coffin together, and lowered into an underground, well-like cavern. Otis also lowers a lamp and a record player, from which words in an unknown language begin to play. Moments later, the coffin is suddenly opened and zombie-like figures leap out of the water and immediately try to attack them. An injured Jerry is overpowered by these creatures, while Denise somehow manages to fight them off and escape. Next, the terrified girl begins to move forward, and soon encounters several more freaks on the way, who viciously rip her bunny suit before leaving her alone. Denise then continues to walk through a series of underground tunnels filled with rotting bodies. She soon finds a door, and opens it, only to be horrified to see a place made entirely of bones. The door behind her suddenly slams shut, while a creature opens another door for her that leads to a room. Inside, Denise is paralyzed with horror when she sees deformed men in the room, feasting disgustingly. Even worse, her eyes fall on Jerry, who is being tortured by none other than Dr. Satan, who is revealed as a nightmarish demon cyborg. The creature is operating on Jerry's exposed brain, and the poor guy finally dies. Then, out of nowhere, a massive monster appears with an axe, and he turns out to be Mother Firefly's husband, Earl. Denise desperately tries to open the door, while Earl approaches and swings the axe at her, but she dodges it, causing him to break the door and allow her to escape. At the cemetery, the lunatic family chants a terrifying ritual as they burn Mary's body. Elsewhere, Denise continues running through the maze of tunnels, until she reaches a dead end, and Earl catches up to her. The poor girl now loses all hope, but when he attempts to strike her with the axe, she manages to dodge, causing the axe to break one of the structures. Everything collapses and falls on top of Earl. Denise manages to hide in a corner and save herself, while the huge monster seemingly dies. We move to the next morning. A shaken Denise manages to get back on her feet, and crawls toward the surface. She drags herself through the dirt, and walks in the middle of nowhere. Soon, a car approaches, and the driver turns out to be Spaulding, who gives her a ride. He is shocked to see her in such a state, and tells her that everyone has been looking for her. Denise weakly asks to be taken to a doctor, and Spaulding reassures her not to worry. An exhausted Denise then passes out, but in a final twist, we see that Otis had been lurking in the back seat. Later, Denise wakes up and is horrified to find herself strapped to Dr. Satan's operating table, realizing that all her desperate fights for survival were in vain.